Hello, Roll here once again, getting back to MagMemel 2, and it's time for the judge commentary on the last couple of stages from Tier 4, so let's get right to it, with 52nd place, Yoshi Adams' poorly named level. SnowRun Pyro. I appreciate that you built a pretty good level out of the Tornado Man platforms, that I hate with a passion, by the way, but oh my god, some of these rooms are so much garbage. I hate the room with the cannon and the two magnet platforms. It's incredibly finicky and almost luck-based to time yourself so that you'll get the right frame of animation to jump to make those ridiculous jumps. And there's spikes everywhere, so it's really hard to reposition yourself. I really wanted to beat this level without special weapons, but that room just killed me so much, and the checkpoint is so far back, it's just... Bigfoy Pero bracket warp. I'm guessing that's just frustrated, just keyboard mash typing. The other issue I have is the one room with the Piri Pari Joes, Beery, and stationary magnet platform. The last jump before the ladder is ridiculously precise, and it's really dumb. Other than that, the level was fine, though I was a bit disappointed that the final stretch of the level just kinda dropped the gimmick in favor of enemy challenges. It kinda took a few playthroughs to really enjoy it, though. My initial experience with the stage was mainly just getting killed on the first few screens, because they're pretty difficult to deal with on a blind playthrough. Overall, the stage has good design ideas, but I don't think it turns out to be very fun, mainly because of that one room, that one jump, and some rooms being very overwhelming for first playthroughs. Joopy Hornet. Thanks for reminding me why I hated Tornado Man stage. You went ham with those platforms. This level has a very inconsistent difficulty curve. Some sections were cakewalks, while others took me several attempts to beat legitimately, and were just insane. Rain plus Tornado Man platform section. Not only that, but this level was annoying. The Tornado Man platforms are very finicky in this engine, making a lot of the jumps come up short. The room with the shield attacker near the beginning is a good example. Also, there should have been more checkpoints. Angel. Sorry, I read your message on what your goals with this stage were, and I think these platforms are the core of most of its problems. It's not so much about your usage of them, but rather the platforms themselves, as they make every scenario more stressful than it needs to be. I really appreciate the effort though, and while I didn't have much fun getting shot into spikes or pits from a mistimed button press, pulling the long platforming section across the pit off properly felt pretty great. This level also somewhat suffers from a tendency to put a bit too many enemies on screen at once, especially near the start, and there is a really silly jump near the end which got me jumping into a ceiling spike more often than I want to admit. It's kinda sad how I feel like this stage would have been more fun if only it used the more standard guts lifts or a variety of different platforms as its main focus. Gariri. Seriously? Why does this level have such awful level design? I can't even count the amount of times extreme precision and timing was needed in order to get through the obstacles and enemies without taking damage, or even without dying. Not to mention the absolutely intolerable mini-boss and serious lack of checkpoints. It's a darn shame that good ideas and beautiful graphics are greatly overshadowed by the pitiful level design and endless frustration caused by trying to get through the stage. And Acebark. I wonder how many people will actually attempt to take on the challenges you set them, or just use the weapons to bypass everything. People are going to either love this stage or despise it. I'm kind of the latter. It is mentioned during the stage whether or not you can make the Tornado Man platforms fun. Well, they're certainly competently executed, I'll give you that. Some of the situations they're stuck in, though, not so much. Strangely enough, your biggest problem might just be the enemies used and the sheer number of them. The earliest screens of the stage are a bit crazy, in areas where very little control is given to the player to safely dodge stuff. It's all rather infuriating. Simply toning down the enemies could have made this more enjoyable. The latter segments start becoming much more tolerable and better in design. I even like the Spike Crazy segment just past the checkpoint for what it's worth. It's a crazy backwards difficulty curve. Luckily the rest of the stage and general competence of everything makes up for it. The Noble Nickels were sneaky as sin. I think the second one probably should have had an altered or redrawn graphic to make it not so unlikely that it is hidden where it is, because even the first one will likely be bypassed the first time you go through the screen, and that one does have a recolored graphic. So, yeah. I couldn't really tell from judge comments whether the Tornado Man platforms were behaving as they were supposed to, but like I said, I'm fairly sure I felt more in control of them in the actual Tornado Man stage than I did here. The fact that you could not charge while you were on them and that you couldn't control your jump height from them, that felt really weird. And so next, 51st place, Trainman 2177WS, Enhanced Mobility. SnowRun Pyro. This level starts off amazing and ends amazing, but the middle of it is just kinda bleh. I really love your unorthodox usage of the Galaxy Man portals. The ending shaft is really fun and creative, and I love it. I wish the whole level was built around it, though because the rest of the level is less than great. There's long stretches of level which just seem to be every enemy ever placed down everywhere, and they'll just hit you over and over and kill you, and it's just not fun. The sled sections are also pretty dumb because not only do they lack any sign commands, they're also incredibly short, and the second one will mainly just consist of you getting hit by the enemy spam over and over. Also, that second exit is entirely pointless. The level really gets brought up, though, by the amazing final section. It's so good. I just wish the whole level was built around it, though, because when the level loses focus, it just kind of falls apart. Jupy Hornet. This level was a bit of a disaster, both in terms of design and aesthetics. It really felt like the blocks and enemies were just placed wherever and then left there. The sled selections were completely skippable, and it was honestly easier to fly over them and shoot enemies with Rush Jet than to actually use the sled, because those sections were very hard to memorize without dying several times due to the many enemies. I don't think that part was tested enough. The part at the end with all the galaxy portals was cool, but it was sometimes unfair because you couldn't see what was above you. Angel. This level exists in a weird state between interesting teleporter setups and enemy spam, the latter of which also bleeds in the second half of this level's snowboarding segments. I really enjoyed the Spike Fall and Spike Rise segments, but the rest of the level strikes me as something that could have been much more if it adhered more closely to the teleporter boost gimmick. There's a lot of undiscovered potential here, but the problem is exactly that, it's undiscovered in this level. I also got killed by a random screen border that one time. I assume there were spikes on the other end. Okay, wonder where that was. Gariri. This level is alright, but it suffers quite a bit from bad enemy placement, especially when so many of them are shooting lots of projectiles that are hard to avoid. The sled sections don't even require the usage of the sled, and if you use it, it becomes ridiculously difficult and short. I like the teleporter gimmick, but it drags on for way too long. Overall, it's not a bad level, but it could be better. And A-Spark. Oh dearie me. Playtesting is a good thing. As about half of the gimmicks in this stage are utterly pointless, you can skip using most of them. This includes both of the Frostman sled, both of them. Without weapons or utilities, I actually completed the two areas that use jet sleds without the jet sled. I'm sorry, but that is hilarious. I went back to play both segments with the jet sled afterwards, and they're not exactly improved by the gimmick, especially with the enemy spam of the second one. The stage wants to do two paths, which is weird because one of the paths is incredibly short, so short in fact it doesn't really warrant existing, like it feels short enough to only have a noble nickel in it. The other has some thought put behind it and is a decent length at least. Enemy selection is spotty. There are many instances of only a single enemy of a type showing up in the stage, I assume. It really doesn't help the level any, mostly because many of these are often badly placed. The tile set appears to be random blocks placed all over the place. At no point does this level seem coherent. I'll give you praise where you deserve it. Your checkpoint placement was great, and the final room on the long path, whilst silly, was a very clever way of using the Galaxy Man teleporters. The spike drop earlier in the level was also well handled. Everything else was a bit lackluster in most cases, and rubbish in others, and the fact so much of the level can be played by outright ignoring segments is ridiculous. So yeah, I kind of wondered if you could do the sled segments without the sled, and it turns out that yes you can, and so by using the sled, I probably made those areas harder on myself than expected. Like I showed in the stage, there are some areas where the teleporters will just ram you into spikes that it looks like it shouldn't, that it wasn't intended that that's what was supposed to happen, so yeah, some areas probably did need to be playtested a little bit more, and yeah, enemy spam in some segments was a bit of an issue. But it was an interesting gimmick, I definitely can give it that. But with that, we finished Tier 4, and that's where we're going to call it for now. So thank you very much for watching, I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I shall see you again next time. Until then, fare thee well.